Good afternoon, participants. Please confirm if you can hear us by maybe putting a chat that we are clear. Thank you so much for making time to be here. To some of you, I guess it's a good morning. To some of you, it's good afternoon. And maybe to some of you, it's good evening or good night. Those who are just about to go to bed. But thank you for making time to be with us today on this webinar that is entitled Building a Better Africa webinar series, and with the subtitle Leveraging Technology to Overcome Challenges in the African Construction Industry. We are looking forward to the conversations that we're going to be having that are important at this time in the development of Africa. And we believe that we need to have these conversations, but we also need to jump into action. It is significant for us to leverage technology as a continent so that we will be able to tap into the opportunities that are available to us. We would go into a brief introduction of the panelists, but before we do that brief introduction of the panelists, we're going to also take some time to share with you a video just to expand more on what we are about as Construct Africa, and hopefully some of you can subscribe to the opportunities that we have, but also can participate in one way or the other, or can reach out with other dimensions about technology that we can leverage on as the board. We thank the team from Construct Africa for arranging us and putting us together, and we're looking forward to very productive conversations this time of the day. So I will hand over to the team for our video show. Please go ahead, team.
From Lagos to Lusaka, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, Africa is building faster than ever. New roads, ports, power plants, cities, $1 trillion transformation in motion. But in a market this dynamic, opportunity moves quickly, and without the right intelligence, deals slow down, risks multiply, and your competitors get ahead. That's why Construct Africa exists, the definitive source for real-time project data, market insights, and verified intelligence across every sector of Africa's built environment. From energy to transport, mining to housing, thousands of projects, billions in contract opportunities, all searchable, trackable, and investment-ready. Used by developers, suppliers, investors, lenders, governments, and global brands who refuse to guess. They act on proven data, not headlines or hearsay. Because in Africa's growth story, information isn't optimal, it's the edge that wins markets. The projects are moving. The money is moving. If you're not tracking the market, someone else is. Start your advantage with Construct Africa.
So thank you so much for that. Hopefully we've got some ideas there that will all benefit us and take us forward. And thank you for the team that arranged the video. We will have a minute of introduction to each of our panelists. I'll start off with myself. I'm Professor Khumbulani Mpofu, a fellow of the Society of Industrial Engineering in South Africa, as well as a professional member of the Engineering Australia. I'll hand over to the next panelist, Engineer Refilwe Buthelezi. You can go ahead and introduce yourself, ma'am. I'm the Vice Chancellor of Solusi.
Thank you very much, Prof. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Refilwe Buthelezi. I am the President of the Federation of African Engineering Organizations and also the immediate past President of the Engineering Council of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer. We're going to go to Engineer Deneke. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Sophonias Deneke. I'm currently the president of the Construction Technology Management Professional Association and former board of director for the Ethiopian Construction Contractor Association. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'll go on to Mark Worrall.
Hello, everybody. Yes, hi, Prof.
Hi.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Mark Worrall. I am the CEO and founder of Estates and Infrastructure Exchange, which is based in London and regulated here. And we provide a platform to fund infrastructure projects around the world.
Thank you so much, Mark. We'll go on to Tunde Over to you, Tunde.
Thank you, Professor. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Tunde Ogunshakin. I am the director at AEO Group. We focus on investment management within infrastructure and strategic advisory. And I'm also the founder of C Drive, a platform based in Web3 realm, looking at ways in which we can utilize blockchain technology to enhance infrastructure investment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tunde. And then we'll go on to James.
Hello, good afternoon or good morning, everyone. I'm James Afolalu. I'm a civil engineer and a data scientist based in Holland. I'm originally from Nigeria and have strong connections with the African continent, including South Africa. And I'm currently active with Cognizant, an international consultancy, as a program director.
Thank you so much. So these are our panelists for this time. And I'm looking forward to all the topics that they will be individually speaking to. So without further ado, in the interest of efficiency for our conversation, we'll jump onto the first topic, topic number 1, focusing on tech applications in construction management. So I will ask the questions, and but we'll start off maybe with a presentation from the panelist who's going to speak about the topic, and then we then proceed to questions. So over to the tech management in construction applications. You can go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to talk about a transformative sustainable construction using revolutionary technology, that is 3D concrete printing technology. Next slide, please. Okay. So I'm based in Ethiopia. So as you know, Ethiopia is very much fast-tracking the construction industry, and there's a lot of corridor development. There's a lot of dam, airport, and mega projects. And with that, we have Ethiopia is facing a housing shortage as well, because it's the second largest country in the continent, and there's over 1 million units shortage. And the traditional construction is slow, labor intensive, and material wasteful. And the urban demand is it's well known. And right now we are also facing or we are trying to, by 5 years, we are trying to face or to construct 1.5 million units of houses in 5 years. So with all this shortage, there is project management and there's construction and civil engineering solution. And one of the things that our association with different institutions from Dubai, UAE, and Austria, we have tried to be doing for the past year is giving a solution for this problem. Next slide. Am I able to change it or somebody's changing it? Okay. Okay, thank you. And our solution is this 3D concrete printing. When we say 3D concrete printing, there are different of printer technologies, but this one is a lost formwork system. It's a kind of thing that we try to make it a homegrown system. Instead of formworks, plywood, metal sheet, and everything, we do a printing of pallets of formworks using a concrete, and using those concrete, we can do all the vertical and horizontal parts, and also incorporate the conventional way of pouring concrete, which can be done on site or in a precast system. And there is also a mobile units, like you see in the picture, a containerized format, where it could be acquired by doing this reduction in cost, time, and schedule. So these are some of the things that we try to achieve, and we have tried to work with a 3D printing manufacturer to be locally adaptable. That means we use our own local materials, our sand, limestones, and cement locally, so that no need of importing materials. Next slide, please. And there are different approaches, as I said. There is a gantry versus a mobile workshop. The gantry system, as everybody knows it, or everybody have been trying to do it. It is set up within the building and trying to print out the whole building, but it doesn't go up more than ground plus 2, as far as I know. And also there are cracks and different side backs. So we have tried to develop it in this way as a loss formwork system. Next slide. Yeah, so in our mobile workshop, it could be set up anywhere, as I said, and we will do the concrete mix accordingly to the standards, and we can print out the formwork structures, or we can print out, like you see on the left side of the picture, wall structures or floor structures as per the specification. And in the middle, if it's a structural part, we'll put the required rebars and fill out the concrete. And on the right side, as you see, for any infrastructure according to the requirement, we can put these hollow cores or different void spaces to reduce waste of materials or cements, rather than the conventional formworks. Filling it with whole concrete, we avoid what we don't want, and that's how we can minimize wastage and also reduce cost. Next slide. So the technology advantage, as mentioned, up to 480 meter squares per day capacity can be produced with 4 units workshop. And we have tried to do a ground plus 9 block in 30 days. And it reduced building time by 50% from the most advanced construction that we have in Ethiopia. It reduced the concrete and rebars by 40%. It enhances labor productivity by 40%. That means people are afraid when there is a concrete printer that labor will not work or loss of job will be there. But this is not the case, because it is a hybrid system. We use conventional part as well as the 3D printer. We can mix it up. Let's say if we want the production of vertical elements only by the 3D printer, the horizontal elements will still be done by conventional way. By that, we can achieve all these remarkable numbers, as well as create a job for a lot of people, because we can do 2 or 3 times with a finance or with a budget allocated to different projects. Next slide. And looking into the environmental and social impact, 50% of less waste and 70% of less timber usage from the previous trend. And it is a mobile workshop that minimizes logistics, because precast systems or different construction or modular buildings, you produce it in one place in a factory, and there is transportation from place to place. That also will reduce CO2 emission and also reduce different logistics. So it's more safer, and digital upskilling will be there, and more job creation will be achieved by doing this. Next slide. And as a setup summary, So we have ventured with local government construction companies, that is FHC, that is the Federal Housing Corporation. So for them, the suppliers is going to be Bamit, Australian company, technology and manufacturing company. And we used these 4 3D printers, and there is design installation and operation. Regarding the design, obviously, most of the local engineers and architects are being trained BIM technology, because this system automatically will take the BIM or the Revit file or the Rhino file and to printing the documents. And the total investment cost is around 2.6 million USD, but also we have done a lot of return on investment, and it's surprising, and it's within less than 3 years the machine could repay its own price. And we have done now we are doing a lot of different out of the way or not conventional systems, and we will be piloting that project in the coming 2 months, and everybody is invited to showcase that one. Please, next slide. So implementation for the project, it takes between 1 to 2 months from the procurement stage, up to 3 to 4 months setting up and training on site, because it's very easy, because training have been already done online. And on the 5th month, the pilot project will start, and between 6 and 7 months, the first different type of building or more futuristic building project will be completed, which is basement plus ground plus 3 building, of which we intend to finish it in 1 month's time. Next slide. As you see, this is the design of or design selection of that, and that is on a plot area of 500 meters square. The construction time, as you see, it's 40 days, including the finishing and furnishing and everything. And as you see on the left lower side, it's going to be on a different kind of setup, and it's futuristic. It's like playing Lego for grown-ups, and we hope that we'll enjoy construction more, and we will achieve this kind of products with a very small amount of budget, that is 50% or 40% budget reduction and 50 to 60% of time increase. Next slide. Yep. So all in all, I don't want to take much more time, but if anybody is interested and if we want to discuss about different things, there is we can contact each other, or we can present it or ask the question to the panelists, and I'll try to answer all the questions. Thank you very much. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Deneke. I'll maybe start off with the panelists. If there are any thoughts there on how we can build Africa a little bit faster. Are there any questions on the chat? It looks like on the chat we don't have questions from the panelists. I was just wondering, Engineer Deneke, that how widely applied is this technology to printing of roads? Because I guess they don't have height problems, so everything is on the surface. So it's really a matter of this robot just maybe running reverse and printing as it goes that way. Are there any places where this kind of technology is being applied, or are there any plans in the future to apply this technology in that space? Because connecting people with places is very critical for us as a continent.
For us, we are focusing more on the corridor development project, which is in Ethiopia. So we are developing or renewing the face of Addis for that, pavements and blocks or something. Instead of using marbles or instead of using terrazzo tiles, we print out these things as well to cover a lot of areas, and it's more visually aesthetic. And when talking about road, instead of making a not asphalt road, we're not comparing with that, but with smaller roads, we can do road coverage. And also this printer could print a formwork for bridges. So whatever type of bridge you want to produce, you just print out the bridge with a different shape and everything, and then you'll just fill it out with a concrete and with reinforcement bar. So it's as simple as that. And the best part is the robots are, they don't get tired. So as long as you produce or you assign 2 shifts or 3 shifts, it can produce as much as you want, and then you'll collect it and put it on the place on the next day. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those responses. There are questions here on the chat. Are there any considerations of biomimicry in construction as it provides an edge in Africa, especially if in sync with technology? Any thoughts there on biomimicry?
I didn't get that question.
Are there any thoughts around biomimicry, biological mimicry in construction as it provides an edge for Africa?
So this is just a normal concrete, and we are using this concrete production as the normal European code or the Ethiopian building code. Whatever the concrete can do, this concrete is same as that. And the advantage is you can also, instead of using silts sand, you can use limestones, and with that it's more environmental friendly, and you can do a hanging wall with different vegetation, and you can I mean, the plan to do this is unlimited, and you can produce a lot of local or urban farming systems on this. You can do statues and fountains. So the case is unlimited, but it's also on the trial phase, and we'll just try to check all these suitabilities and get back to you.
Thank you very much. Are there any examples of African companies that are into this 3D construction? Maybe shortly, and then we'll go into the next presentation, which is on digital twins, building information modeling and infrastructure modeling. But maybe you can respond on the African companies that are doing this kind of work, or is it strictly still technology from Europe?
Actually, there is, as I understand, in South Africa, there's a university that is doing this kind of research, and they're trying to do 3D construction printing, and they are doing something, but they are more on the beautification or on the facade side of 3D concrete printing, but not on buildings. Also, there are some rules and regulations in different countries. Maybe in South Africa, it's not allowed to implement 3D printing because of the labor law and different things. But for other African countries, it's I think we are pioneering on this stage, especially on lost formwork type of 3D concrete production, which is same as precast concrete. So yeah, let me keep it at that.
Thank you so much for those insights. We'll come back if there are other questions, but now let's dive into the next topic, entitled Digital Twins, Building Information Modeling and Infrastructure Modeling. Over to you, sir. You can go ahead. Can you hear me? Hello? James, are you there? If James is a bit stuck, we'll go to Mark. Mark will be speaking.
I think James is sharing his screen. Let's wait.
Is he sharing his screen?
Yeah.
Okay. James, are you sharing your screen? Yes, if James is not sharing his screen, he could be having technical issues. I think in the interest of time, let's go on to Mark Worrall, who will speak to us on the topic that is focusing on infrastructure investment with blockchain platform. Mark, are you ready for us? Can we proceed with you?
Yeah, I can be ready. I can be ready. I don't think we have any slides though, so I think it may be I can keep it relatively short. Or and this slide there was anything. I don't think there are any slides, but I can talk to the subject for sure. But not blockchain, but I could talk about finance for sure.
Thank you so much, Mark. Over to you.
Is that what you want me
Go
to
ahead.
do? Prof, okay, okay. Dana, we don't have any slides, right? As far as I know. So shall I just talk generally? Is that right?
Yep, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Prof. So hello everybody. As I said before, Mark Worrall, founder and CEO of a company called EIX, Estates and Infrastructure Exchange. So we fund projects that are around the world as debt. So in particular, as debt. And I guess our secret sauce is that we combine the ability of being able to bring insurance to bear on the infrastructure projects. And what that means is that we can make the credit worthiness of a project higher than it would be regardless of the state of the country, which is obviously very relevant to the African continent. Because you can actually raise it to investment grade from for companies like pension funds and insurance companies, etc., to be able to invest in those projects. We have been on a very long road to do this, and we have, I guess, two pieces of unique IP, if you like. One is that we can do it from a very early stage. So in the United States, we are actually, for the bioeconomy, and I just want you to bear with me. I know I'm talking about the US, but it's important nonetheless, I think, for Africa, is we are able to fund projects from very early stages with debt with as much as 70 or 80% insurance coverage for capital and interest for projects to be able to get off the ground. And then all of that coverage is then taken out. That exposure, that financial exposure, is then taken out by the full financing package. So what I mean by that is, if let's say we had 100 million notional money that was required for a project, what we would be able to do is we would be able to cover 80-90% of that financing, with the 10% simply being the land and the permissions attached to it. So those projects would then able to be financed over the 30 year period. So there's two parameters that we provide. One is a very high loan to value and a very long tenor. And before that, what we're able to do is also finance at a lesser insured level, but nonetheless for a good return for investors, a capability of being able to get those projects to the starting line of that full financing position. And so what that means is that fundamentally you've got, let's say, the paper that you want to run for the full financing of the development of the site, let's say waste to energy or solar or whatever it may be. We can finance the 2 years prior to being ready to finance, and then the 30 years afterwards, including the construction period. And what that means is that fundamentally you've got 32 years of finance, but in what is really, really good, whether it be for state or for company, means that your balance sheet is not diluted along the way. So we are offering a debt solution end to end for that period of time. So in this case, in the example I've just given on that 100 million for 32 years, and you may have, I don't know, 10% of that might cost you 10 million to get the project ready. So we finance all of that, and then we roll up the interest, repay the interest at the beginning, and then we finance for the following 30 years the construction period, which rolls up the interest, and then we amortize the interest after you're stable as an up and running company over the ensuing 28 years. So, and we list that as a bond in London on a regulated structure. It's fully insured, so the lenders that come in are insured through using a mixture of the natural insurances that you have, but also parametric insurance. So you're able to build a structure which fundamentally means that the projects in hand are of investment grade, as long as we can understand the risks of the place, country, and situation. But on that basis, as long as the insurance industry is on board, those projects are all financeable on a debt basis. Okay, on a debt basis. And then the beauty of it is then you have a listed debt product in London for the project, which then of course has a halo effect of allowing you as a business, if you're a business or a corporate, or in fact a country, then of course to be able to use that to bring about the change that you then might seek for a region, situation, or circumstance, whether you're using Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or whether you're choosing, if you're actually following a program, or if you're just a company wanting to get a project off the ground, then that allows that to occur too. So this is a scalable opportunity for people to be able to do that. But I don't want to get into a sales pitch. So I'm conscious of making sure that what I'm talking about is something that you all understand, that delivers opportunity, that we've worked very hard at being able to provide to enable global capital without the World Bank, without MIGA, or any other of those other structures that you will all be familiar with if you're imbued with the continent, to do this in a commercial way. And we spent the last, I guess, 8 years putting this together. And we're here and happy to help and very listening. And I hope that we can help you to help yourselves and help the continent to move forward. I hope that is a good synopsis of what we're about. But I'm happy to take any questions or speak to anybody, Prof, as you see necessary. If I can hand back.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark. You can see the hands clapping there, because in most of the African countries, like you've rightly mentioned, the country is not investment grade. So no capital is coming for construction, no capital is coming for development, and you really struggle to get capital. So thank you so much, Mark, for that breath of fresh air that you're providing in the conversation. I think from my side, I'll go first with the question. What are the financial models that, with this financial modeling, do you have an example of a case in point? I guess you don't have to give names, but maybe of a specific project where this has happened and how it has gone very well, especially in a context where the investment grade of the country maybe has got a lot of problems, and the project has taken off and it's been successful, and maybe even the deal has finally been able to pay itself back. Thank you so much. And then we'll go to the other questions online.
Well, as you can tell from my video, I'm not that young, so so I may or may not see the end of some of these projects that we're financing. But anyway, leaving humanity to one side, I think that we have projects that we are beginning to finance with this model across the world. I mean, 50% of what we do is in the United States, although we're a UK-based business. And I think what's interesting is that we are able to look at a variety of opportunities accordingly. I think to provide an example, so for the early stage component, what we've done is within the bioeconomy space. So energy is obviously important. We don't have to start with bioeconomy, but I'm just going to use that as an example. And what we're doing now, off the back of the challenges that the present US administration has provided, we were asked whether we could finance these very early stage projects. And what we were able to do was come up with effectively a set of bridge financing tools with insurance that enabled the market to address right off the bat nearly $1 billion worth of financing in the US, admittedly, but that unlocks approximately, that's 10% of a bigger number. So that would be a $10 billion framework, for example. If you then come to other continents, I mean, whether it be Asia, Africa, etc., we have looked at several project pieces. I would suggest that in those cases, it's the process that we go through that's probably more useful to your participants, to your listeners, to the people on the call, for them to understand the process. So what we do is you fill out. It's very simple, actually. You fill out. Well, I hope it's simple because we've tried to make it very easy. Is you fill out. We sign an NDA so everyone feels protected. Then you fill out something called a project information request. So that's a very simple form. We give you 4 answers back from that, which is insurance, someone who's interested in representing your project in London, the exchange itself was an answer, and the fact that we think in principle that we can fund it to the levels I've mentioned on this call, 80-90% loan to value as debt, and then you get back the insurance, all the components, and you get that when you fill out that form. We will tell you within about a week to 10 days where we can do it, so it's quite quick. And then once the whole project is presented to us, we will look to fund that in a 12 to 16 week period. So it's quick, but you have to be ready for the project to be funded. And the question was, are you really ready to be funded? And from my experience, having done this for many years now, is that typically the projects aren't ready to be funded. But if you're ready, we can do it quite quickly. But if you're not ready, it will take a bit longer.
Super. Thank you so much.
That's probably best.
Yes. I guess those who really want to dive deeper can engage you offline. But from my end, thank you so much. I think there are some more questions online. Maybe we can go for one with a short answer before we dive on to the next presentation.
You tell me how long I've got, I'll fit.
Yes, maybe you can do this one in a minute. How do you structure the debt with your clients across Africa, in particular, any default, repayment, and political instability?
So when we use the insurance that we use is actually constructed in order to the insurance itself. The insurance itself is a way to enable UK pension funds to be able to invest in construction risk. Okay, and so as a consequence of how we put that insurance package together, they actually are covered and can call on that money without arbitration. So to answer the question that the participant has asked, effectively any political or other risk is covered by the very basics of the cover itself in that way. So if you like, it's MEGA plus. If those that understand the World Bank or the UN or whatever other whatever, but it's private, so it's unique to the project itself, if that makes sense.
Fantastic.
Hope that answers the question.
I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of contacts, but maybe you can tell us how people can reach you later on. But definitely, I think there are people who are like, yes, I'm going to speak to Mark.
Segun and Diana have my number, so people can get hold of me, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Mark. We're going to dive onto the next conversation. I think we're going to keep to the financing talk and then introduce the other talks a bit later. I also saw that Engineer Buthelezi did share a link there about what's taking place at the University of Johannesburg. So the participants are welcome to check out the chat to get some of the feedback that is coming through with respect to some of the questions that were raised. But at this time, Tunde, are you ready for us?
I'm happy. I'm happy, by the way. I'm happy to answer the questions if I can online as well. I can kind of do some of that too if I've got.
Yes, please feel free to chat. The conversation continues online. Tunde will speak to us about blockchain, and I think everyone is looking forward to hearing how are we blockchaining this construction and I guess many other aspects besides the financing. Over to you, Tunde. We're looking forward to hearing.
Thank you, Professor. Hello, everybody. Just to reintroduce myself, Tunde Ogunshakin here. So I guess without going into too much detail straight away, it's probably good to give a bit of background about myself and how I kind of managed to get involved within the blockchain space as a new technology. So for the past, I guess, about 5 to 10 years, I've been focused in infrastructure investment. For 4 of those years, I was in transaction advisory, working at AECOM, looking at a number of projects, PFI, PPPs across a range of different sectors within the UK. Thereafter, I started my role at a company called Equitix, who are an infrastructure investment manager based in the UK. They had quite a large portfolio of assets cutting across 5 different sectors: social infrastructure, renewable power, environmental services, transportation, and data infrastructure. And during my time at these entities, I obviously had a lot of insight into the structure and environment and some of the bottlenecks that are faced within the built environment from financing. Obviously I had a personal interest also at the time looking into blockchain technology. After studying for my master's in infrastructure planning, I did a thesis looking at ways in which we can use tokenization, which is, I guess, a fraction of or a subset of blockchain technology as a mean for increase in infrastructure investment and increase in liquidity and financing options. So I guess, I don't want to assume that everyone knows what blockchain is, but just to kind of give a bit of a summary, a lot of people would quite familiar with what cryptocurrencies are. It's a very kind of contentious topic, but fundamentally what blockchain is it's a trust mechanism. So a lot of people understand it from the financial realm in terms of investment in cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin, whatever that may be. But ultimately what it is a technology that can facilitate trust. So historically, obviously, we've always relied on many different forms of intermediaries, whether that be money or banks as a means for verifying or authenticating transactions, or just any sort of transaction beyond the financial realm, whether that's contractual documentation or just an audit trail of things that have actually been committed to. So when it comes to blockchain in the built environment, obviously I saw, the kind of opportunity with infrastructure as an asset class. Historically, it's a highly illiquid asset. I know Mark can speak to this in a lot of ways because what he's working on and EIX has a lot of synergies with what I've been focusing on as well. But essentially, one of the functions of blockchain is tokenization, which is a means by which you can fractionalize a portion of an asset, very much in the same way that we look at shares for businesses that are listed on the stock exchange or FTSE 100, whatever that may be. But the brilliance of tokenization comes in the grounding principles in what blockchain has to offer, which are transparency, efficiency, and immutability. So transparency in the view of everyone has sight of what transactions have been made. It's readily available to everyone. There's no pointed figures as to whether or not something has been done. Immutability in the way that the technology itself is technologically secure, so everything is encrypted in code. So it's very, very hard to tamper with. And once a transaction has been made, it cannot be reversed in any way, shape, or form. And then obviously efficiency in the way that, because we have these two other fundamental mechanisms in place in terms of transparency and immutability, we can then transact with one another a lot more efficiently, on a peer-to-peer basis. So when it comes to tokenization, I thought, obviously there's a bit of a bottleneck in infrastructure investment. And I think particularly looking at Africa, this is a really good opportunity for us as a continent to be looking into this technology. Not least just because we have the youngest population in the world currently at the moment. So there are a lot of individuals that are quite technologically efficient and are already, currently using this technology on a day-to-day, whether it be through remittance payments, making payments internationally, or just simply investing on the marketplace. So what it is that I'm trying to do with C Drive at the moment is look at ways in which we can create a platform whereby we can have a whitelist of investors we can utilize blockchain technology in a way that they can begin to transact amongst themselves in the same way that we can do it in existing public markets. And in that way, build out certain mechanisms to facilitate opportunities that wasn't already available to the market prior to blockchain's existence. So one of these avenues is looking at, secondary market options. Now, again, Mark is doing a lot of this work in EIX, looking at the use of private placement bonds and offering out that investment vehicle as a way to, offer kind of investment from an investment pool that isn't typically privy to infrastructure as an asset class. But with the onset of, ESG and impact investment, and particularly looking back at my experience in my previous company, Equitix, there was a big mandate to help find ways that we can make more ethical investments. So I'm just going to go and assume that everyone knows what ESG means, but the S in the ESG is obviously the social element. So what ways can we bring back value to the customers that infrastructure serve in society? So I think the benefit of using blockchain tokenization specifically comes twofold in the way that we can look at enhancing existing procedures that investors use to invest in infrastructure as an asset class, but also offer out that asset class to a new cohort of individuals that hadn't previously been able to access this particular marketplace. So, those are two facets of blockchain that I'm focusing on specifically, but it does go a lot more deeper than that in the sense that, as I said before, it's a trust mechanism. So, going all the way down to the construction period, when you look at blockchain as a ledger, a mutable ledger that can't be changed and there's a single source of truth, there are a lot of benefits, when it comes to construction milestones. So being able to utilize smart contracts to be able to facilitate payments once certain milestones have been achieved, or simply just being able to induce contracts themselves in a more efficient manner to reduce the need for arbitration and litigation amongst different entities when it comes to focusing in this realm. So, smart contracts, in short, are basically it's a form of code that executes certain lines of action based on predetermined criteria. So you can imagine how you can structure that in the frame of a contract structure for an infrastructure project, or any project for that matter, and how much time and effort can be saved when it comes to the build, the operation, or even in the design phase of infrastructure development throughout these periods. So yeah, I guess that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour in terms of my background and where my interests are within the space. What I'm doing with C Drive is basically working on a platform to help facilitate what it is that I've been talking about. So it will be very much everything up to tokenizing the asset itself, all the way down to managing the asset in terms of doing ESG reporting, contract management, as well as transacting on a white list of investors from different regions globally or locally, whatever that may be, and then also offering a secondary market opportunity in that regard. So I think for Africa, again, this is a really good opportunity for us to kind of leapfrog legacy systems. I appreciate there's a lot of work to be done in this space. It's quite a niche industry as it stands, so it's quite difficult to penetrate this market. But I think because Africa is at such an intersection point, if we begin to adopt these mechanisms early on, then we can skip quite a lot of the hurdles that have typically been experienced in the West. So, but I'll leave it there. I feel like I'm rambling on a bit, but happy to answer any questions and engage in any discussions if anyone has any any insights or comments to make. Thank you, Professor.
Yes, thank you much. Thank you so much, Tunde. I think traceability is very key, especially in the continent with a lot of miscellaneous things happening. So if people can trace that I put my money here and this is where it ended, there was 1 meter of road or 5 meters of road when I put money for 10 meters of road, then that traceability, absolutely, for me, I see it is a fantastic solution for investors, fantastic solution for donors who want to follow the money and what has happened to it. But I'm thinking that maybe, colleagues, in the interest of having a wider open discussion, maybe if you will allow us to proceed with the other speakers. We give them 5 to 8 minutes to share their thoughts, and then we have a collective discussion as a family. How about that? So James, are you ready for us? And then we will keep the best for last. Engineer Buthelezi will go last. James, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, James. Please go ahead.
Okay.
You've got 5
Okay, and I'd like to share my screen. So I'm been asking exactly how to do that. Otherwise, I'll just talk through my presentation. But it'd be nice
there's a
to share
green button at the bottom of your screen. You press share. That should allow you to share.
Yeah, I
Is it
see show
working?
captions, Q&A, share screen. That's right, share.
Yes, share screen, and
Yeah,
then you should
exactly.
be able to
So this is
show it
it.
all to us. Thank you so
Share.
much. Over to
So
you.
hold on. So you should be able to see my screen now. Just a second.
So as you're getting there, we are going to focus now on a very interesting topic, one that we've explored a bit with some of the teams that we're working on, digital twins. Definitely a key enabler to less accidents and so on and so forth, but we're looking forward to the insights on the other aspects that digital twins can help us with. So over to you, James, and take it away.
Okay. So I think you can see my first screen. So I just go.
Yes, I think if you can share the slides at the bottom there, just click share screen, and then it will appear more bigger. Thank you so much.
Can you see it now? Because I think
yes, we can. We can see it. Just share it.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Professor. And one thing is, maybe I'll start with a question. The question is, how are you aware that Africa, that we were actually losing quite a lot of, if we were to quantify it in terms of money, let's use US dollars. Can anybody give a guess as to how much we lose due to the inefficiencies that arise in construction as a result of not having real-time data about our biggest infrastructure projects compared to other regions of the world where that real-time data is available? Would you put that in the order of hundreds of millions, or will you put that in the orders of tens of millions, or otherwise? Does anybody care to guess?
Billions.
What we lose by not having digital data available directly, for instance, about construction, big construction or infrastructure projects?
Billions.
It's going to be hundreds of billions, but one thing I would say, I wouldn't necessarily take the benchmark from other countries, because I don't think the benchmark's any better anywhere else, by the way.
That's right. Yeah. So, okay. Well, that just to get out to the start. But basically, I think one thing is that interacting with a physical object is the ultimate what you want to do. But as we know in engineering, even from the beginning of engineering, when we've always had drawings, having some sort of model has been critical in being able to actually use your intellectual visualization to affect how things are built. I remember, studying architecture in those days, or civil engineering in those days, how our African architects were did a lot of engineering things using local materials to build models of the construction they were having. So we are at a stage where visualization, being able to create very flexible models, allows us to do a lot of things that we were not able to do before. Just like as we are moving into the digital age, we can't afford to remain behind in terms of these tools. So I'd like to introduce some of those tools to us and sort of take us into how these could be make a big difference in if we take it seriously and we don't wait until we get everything right before we start applying them universally in Africa. So these are a few of the things that we have. And have cost overruns. So these are challenges that digitalization and digital twin, as I explained, will help us to deal with. Project delays, broken supply chains, and the fact that, there's a lot of, in spite of a lot of people in Africa, but not necessarily that doesn't translate into a workforce. So those are all areas that we can address with some of these issues and improve our level of performance and our level of performance and efficiency in some of those areas by using what are relatively simple tools. So we could use them. It's about, for example, in collaboration that allows people, if we have an engineer who is living in Lusaka and we have another engineer living perhaps in Lagos and a team that is perhaps in Accra, what are the possibilities that you could connect all these three people and actually work on the same project at the same time in the design of the project, or even in the management of the maintenance of a particular institution. So that allows us to, using the digital tools, collaborate better. There's an area of a lot of waste reduction because of this, these kind of tools. But in fact, maybe the most promising that I've seen is in the area of predictive maintenance. I'm currently engaged in one of the biggest airports in the world, very busy, Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. And this airport has invested billions of euros in making sure that absolutely everything you can imagine that has to do with the airport's assets are digitized, not just in 2D, but in 3D, and using BIM language actually in what we call 4D and 5D. So that allows us to connect and actually think sometimes years ahead in terms of how we do the maintenance, allows us to make purchase orders and make decisions about how the future of the airport will look like. Right now, we're at a stage in which we're actually looking at evaluating the value of the entire airport and the main contractors who are involved in maintenance of the airport, how we can actually optimize the different kind of maintenance contracts that we have with them. So it's more than just construction. It's the maintenance of our assets, which this could have a huge impact on. Think about all the airports and all the other infrastructures that we have in Africa. So a few quick definitions I'd like to maybe share with us. Just a second, which of my slides is that? Excuse me. So we talk about different terms. One term that we look at a digital twin. Well, that's probably the most relatable of that. That is actually, it's a model, but which is not physical in any sense. So it's not a paper model, it's not a plastic model, it's not a 3D model, as great as the 3D technology is. It's just a virtual twin that's a physical representation of the particular asset. Anything from your house to the drainage, to airports, to railway stations, to railway lines. We use the term also BIM, which is the business information model. And this is more like the industry standard that kind of takes us towards a common language. And that is an area where we might think about upscaling in Africa, because once this common language is understood universally, it can take us to the next level, which is really infrastructure modeling, which extends to using BIM on a large scale for projects, roads, bridges, utilities, and we can sort of leapfrog, take advantage of some of the technologies that have already been shown to be mature in many areas of the world. So again, there are looking at specific opportunities in terms of, I've mentioned some of them. rough estimates, which I think on the conservative side, is that if applied correctly to our biggest projects, by investing in them, we will be saving upwards of 20% in the cost overrun of some of these huge projects. And that has been the experience in projects like the one in Schiphol that I've been involved in. Again, the possibilities of whenever we think about our projects, we can think of about giving our professionals and our sponsors in an extra input by bringing in professionals from around the world, not just to talk to them like in a seminar like this, but actually to contribute specifically on the design and maintenance and real engineering activities that we have on the specific objects. So again, lots of situations. We're talking about the environmental and sustainability of our infrastructure. That's somewhere we can contribute to. There are a couple of projects that have been made aware of in Kenya and Nigeria, but I don't have the confidentiality to speak about them. But some of these are being already use some aspects of this technology. So it's not completely new, but the question is, can we go beyond the largest and the most obvious ones into more practical aspects of it? So how could we do this? The first stage, I say, is, I talk about BIM, which is the language, the common language. But even before we talk about BIM, all of us use, probably all of us, use things like Google Maps or to visualize our geographical locations. So you can think of starting with, actually, if you're having a model that is represent the geographical, instead of just being able to locate the infrastructures digitally, like you could zoom in on Google Maps and see lots of pictures of the physical infrastructure without actually going there. So that's included in the first stage of this adoption, in which people become more familiar that you don't need to take for instance, a project team physically to the site. You can have a meeting about the road by just sitting the experts and the users down and just walking down the road by just scrolling through the digital twin of the road, for example. So that's a place to start, which will have the infrastructure in place. Once we're able to do that, we might get to the next stage of actually having integrating sensors and all kinds of other real-time technologies, which will provide data. Right now, we're having many projects in which they have IoT, that is Internet of Things capabilities. The sensors are sending information, but where are they sending them to? We're not able to use those sensors for many of these technologies because we don't have the basic infrastructure of the BIM in order to be able to do this. And then once we do that, high in the future, we can get to the stage of actually using cloud collaboration and taking our projects and project implementation and maintenance to a different level. But what does this, Professor was saying, we should think beyond this seminar and think about what happens after this seminar. What can be done by each of us in whatever way we are connected or involved in Africa. A large stage of this is training and education. The professors, the teachers, the lecturers, how can we put some of these capabilities and these trainings, which actually has a potential of creating very interesting new job opportunities in our students and our professionals, our young professionals especially. So I think there's a huge opportunity here to train people who will be the intellectual capacity that we need. So I think there's an area, of course, for people who are already working in the public and private sectors, there's a lot of room for collaboration. For those who are influential in government, I think to take this forward to the level which it needs to be, we could talk with government about what are the incentives and what we need to bring into the climate to make this attractive. So we don't need to begin big. We can begin small and build up. I'll give an example. I don't know whatever city or town you live.
1 more minute, James.
Yes?
1 more minute.
1 minute. So I would say the call to action for me is that let's look at how we can begin small, because it doesn't matter what village or what town you live in. I can tell you that there will be at least one important infrastructure that does not yet have a digital map. And with an investment of a couple of days and free technology, we can get a basic digital twin of this village or this infrastructure in the village, and we can start doing simple things. So it's an entrepreneurial opportunity, an intellectual opportunity, and a business opportunity. So I think my call to action is let's do that. Let's embrace innovation. Let's collaborate across borders. Don't be scared to start. Let's start small and fast, and let's keep the enthusiasm with a good future vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very, very insightful right there, James. But I think from my end, really, I think we should have maybe put you at the end. You know, I'm not sure what Engineer Buthelezi will be saying, but it looks like you were summing up everything so well. But anyway, let's allow Engineer Buthelezi to share her thoughts with us, and then we dive into our open question and answer segment. Engineer Buthelezi, we have kept you not at the end because you're not important, because we want to have the best for last. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Professor. And I must say, I do believe it has come up to a right end from where I'm sitting, because in my presentation, I had mentioned all aspects of what has been presented here today. In my day-to-day, ladies and gentlemen, I have worked from energy sector, water sector, and particularly right now, I head the OT segment of a water utility, one of the biggest in Africa, in fact. So digitalization, digital transformation, and technology is something I deal with on a day-to-day. However, I sit also in the board of Sandral and the board of Transnet. And in those areas, we understand the contribution of those organizations when it comes to the economic development of this continent. And particularly now that we are talking of construction is really in the center of those organizations as well. So the topic of today, it really cuts through the entire value chain or the entire system or the ecosystem within which I provide my services to. But when we zoom into the continent, I fully agree with all of you. We are seeing progress. We are seeing how technology is starting to support some of the construction work that we're doing, all the way from planning through to project delivery. I quite like what you mentioned, Prof, that, you know, whilst we are seeing it, the continent is also filled with what you term miscellaneous activities. But ladies and gentlemen, even if we have a young professional cohort eager to work, if we do not have leaders who want to embrace this data, leaders who want to actually improve transparency, who want to improve accountability, if we do not have aspects of the construction mafia where there's corruption, I mean, I term it corruption and crime, some of this work will not be achieved. So, Prof, I like how you called it, but I do think sometimes we do need to name it what it is. And we do need need to have courageous leaders who are going to say, data is not only an asset for the continent. We need to know what we don't know in order for us to improve. So data gives us what we don't know, but also having systems like blockchain. I mean, in my notes here, when our presenter was talking about blockchain, he made mention of contract management. I had that as one of the challenges that we have. We have really poor systems that help us with contract management. We've got people who have evergreen contracts. We have contracts that overrun and they are not managed well. And yet we know the solution is that of blockchain and other systems that can assist us. We also spoke about the aspect of financial budgets and facilities that could assist us with that. And I think when Mark spoke about this and he said, you know, sometimes we don't have bankable projects for business cases. I think, Mark, what we need to do is take a few steps back and look at as to whether we have enough capacity building systems and structures to enable young, eager entrepreneurs to actually develop a business case that would be bankable. Because I think the problem is there. We don't have enough training systems. I do invite you to come through perhaps at FAIO. We can have a conversation because we understood this gap and we've established something called a FAIO Academy based on ensuring, number one, it's online, so it's an LMS system, and it is therefore there to reach out to every single African engineering professional who wants to improve their skills, obtain CPD, and perhaps we can even include courses of the nature of financing and how to actually put together a bankable plan, and we can assist them with establishing that. We spoke about ESG. There are green bonds out there, but do people within the profession understand what those are? Have we established a way of capacity building to improve the systems that can enable the applications of this? I have here in my notes aspects of infrastructure data and analysis reform. We cannot, ladies and gentlemen, in my view, improve the construction sector if we do not also appreciate efficiency and quality. And technology is the catalyst to ensuring that we achieve that. We need to start assisting people on what these buzzwords, these are big words to some people. And I would like to tease James a little bit, because as we speak about this, he was struggling to share his presentation. And I then thought, we are talking about digital transformation. However, digital, and I don't want to say, James, you are digitally illiterate, but I think we still need to teach a lot of people on how to use the tools of trade, because these are the tools that are there. And yet we constantly struggle with these tools on a daily basis. One day, James, you will laugh at me because I also suffer the same. So the message is also, you know, facing me, but these are aspects that we need to imagine a young engineer sitting in a rural community, being placed in a municipality in a country that does not have the resources that they would require. And yet this young professional is eager to work. And this young professional has a certificate that says you are now a qualified technologist, engineer, or technician. Where do they go? You know, so, and how do they begin? So as having had the opportunity to lead engineering institutions and to lead the regulator, I think it is important to sum up all of this, because when we leave here, I do think there are lowest hanging fruits within which we can collaborate and see how we can assist in achieving these. I also have here in my notes the aspect of cultural considerations. That for construction is a big issue. And I think, Engineer Deneke, you mentioned perhaps in South Africa, we might not take up the issue of 3D building and 3D modeling because of the local aspects, right? And how the unions might come into play. And I think the University of Johannesburg is currently doing it. As we speak today, our His Excellency President Ramaphosa attended a construction summit where the university was also displaying this aspect of 3D modeling and 3D building and construction. And with communication, I do believe that there will be a take-up on that. But in South Africa, we have something that I hope it's just unique to South Africa so that we do not scare the whole world, which is that of construction mafia, which you find in the various local aspects where the local, I would say, thuggery and thieves, because I don't believe these are the local communities who want to participate in construction in their local communities. But these are the people who want to take advantage of the system. And they therefore come in, and that has been proven to being one of the stumbling blocks in construction within the country. I mean, when we hear some of the progress reports in Sandra of us building a huge bridge that we know is going to benefit the communities that are living in the area, it's going to increase economic activities, and yet the one thing that we are stuck on is the fact that there is some people who call themselves the local forums who are not allowing us to actually build this road. That really is a sad state of these miscellaneous activities, Prof, I think you called them. So we need to find a way of addressing these and talking to our leaders, and also involving the communities, not to their disadvantage, because some of these could be unsafe, but we need to find a way of having conversations with these people, because at the end of the day, it is our continent that is going to struggle. And once we then receive this funding and we receive the project, and the scope of work is very clear, which is also another issue. And I think someone touched on procurement and how we collaborate between the various disciplines in a project. How do we ensure that we monitor and evaluate progress? And how do we make sure that we don't have budget overruns when work is not done? And I think in construction, a lot of the time you will find there is no money in the account anymore, and the work is nowhere near done. And that for me is us actually going back to basics of what ethical conduct is for our professionals, number one. But number two, of ensuring that we are giving contracts to people who are competent to actually complete the work. And then number three, no matter how difficult it is, we then remain professional and steer far from political interference, because that is an inhibiting factor. Africa has the skills, Africa has the capability, but with all of these miscellaneous activities that are affecting us, we then appear as though we do not know what the world is doing out there. And Mark, I think I appreciate what you said, because you're right. There are some countries outside of Africa that are also equally struggling. So it is a global issue, but it seems to be affecting us a lot more as Africa, because we actually are sitting in a very opportune space where we have the opportunity to grow and actually expand this continent of ours beyond imagination. Now, one of the things that African Free Trade Area is talking about now is how can we increase mobility of professionals? And how can we, once having increased that mobility of professionals, assist with aspects of dispute resolution? Because if we open up the gates and I go to Ethiopia to do my project, and Engineer Deneke and I don't agree on a particular project, it certainly cannot be engineers or organizations in Ethiopia or South Africa that can assist in dispute resolution with that project. We need to have someone else outside of these two countries to assist. And how do we then involve engineers in this practice? So from FAO point of view, ladies and gentlemen, we started a committee called Dispute Resolution. And one of the things we are encouraging is that all national members of FAO start involving engineers in this mechanism, start training engineers in this mechanism. No offense to the legal practitioners, but I do think if we as the professionals who know the subject matter are involved, we will find that some of these conflicts can be resolved a lot quicker. So Ghana Institute of of Engineering has launched just this year, a few weeks ago, a center called Dispute Resolution Center for the Ghana Institute of Engineering. And that is something that is on my priority list, trying to assist and capacitate a lot of the national members to establish the same from an engineering point of view, so that we are starting to get involved within our own space in dispute resolution as engineering professionals. And then lastly on my presentation is the aspect of the second last, the aspect of upskilling and empowering our workforce, right? I've spoken about digital literacy. It's number one. We cannot speak about transformation of technology without it, but also STEM education. In South Africa, we have got something that it pains me to even talk about, which is a pass rate that was lowered to 35%. How do we, with 35%, ensure that we've got people who are going to be filling into this pipeline of engineering or science or mathematics, STEM education with 35%? So we need to find a way of filling in this, I call it a leaking pipeline for an engineering education value chain, because STEM education is important. So we then have to start focusing on ensuring we create interest at lower primary school education and support them at higher education. Prof, you are sitting in that space. You've got graduations coming up soon. And we need to protect these cohorts that are graduating so that we don't lose them. They don't leave the sector, because we're going to need their skills and expertise and their innovative solutions as we proceed. But also we need to start looking back and actually appreciate the technical TVET space, right? That technical vocational education, and improve reforms that will enable them not only to be seen as it is the space that only those that don't qualify for engineering go to. No, ladies and gentlemen, it is actually the space where we cultivate the skill at an early stage, where when they leave and they graduate, they don't just leave with a certificate, but they also leave with a skill. And I do not think people appreciate the skill that TVET education provides to these young professionals. And therefore, for me, it's an area where I think we must bring together public and private partnerships and improve and upskill the space of TVETs, so that from a TVET space, we can cultivate them at a very young age, from grade 8. You can imagine from grade 8, these young learners are starting to look at and dissect and look at an engine or look at a plumbing system, whatever their interest may be, or start even programming and doing AI because they're in a TVET space. By the time they go into university, or by the time they get to the stages where they are getting to complete this, they've got a skill. So they can quickly even enter into the entrepreneurial space. They do not necessarily need to go knocking for a job. And we are now starting to improve on this unemployment rate that we are constantly seeing. So I think it is also important that we look at that space of how we upskill and how we empower our workforce, not only encouraging the paper that says I'm an engineer, but also the skill that can come with the TVET space that it provides. And lastly, strategic collaboration and policy alignment. I do believe that there is a lot of silo mentality out there. There are a lot of good initiatives that are happening, but as we work together and we start having a multi-stakeholder collaboration, we have a huge chance of achieving a lot more. For example, if you look at the energy space, we have in the SADC region, the Southern African Power Pool. In the Western region, we've got the Western region power pools, and these power pools are starting to collaborate. And when they collaborate regionally, there's no way that at some point they will then look at themselves and start saying, now we are ready to integrate as a region, which is the African continent. From there, they start having markets where they trade energy. So if South Africa has excess energy, there's an energy market that they can trade the surplus in real time. And there's a country that's receiving it on the other end using technology. So when we then start looking at these areas of collaboration as a region, I think that we are then able to improve on some of these challenges. When we then start looking at continental frameworks, when we then start building regional knowledge hubs and cross-industry alliances, where we then start talking to say, how are we as IoT, as AI, as OT professionals going to put in an app or a marketplace for mentors? And we have a platform for mentors. You reach any mentor anywhere in the continent just through an app. I think the opportunity is there for us to start collaborating in that way. So I would encourage that we then start removing silos and we start having a lot more conversations just like we have today. I hope from today we are able to gather a lot more and to talk a lot more and to see how we can actually synergize, because those are the things that we need as a continent. And when we synergize, then we are able to collectively go to our partners of a continental space, such as your BRICS, such as we have got G20, maybe some, maybe not, but we have G20 coming up here in South Africa. We're busy, and we are collectively going to say, as an African continent, we would like you to invite you, Mr. China, to come and manufacture in our continent, but you're not just delivering finished goods, because we are not just consumers. We want to also manufacture what we consume as a continent. And in strength of collaboration, we then have a bigger voice when we meet these players, and they're able to take us seriously. But if we don't collaborate, and I go as Refilwe to a particular manufacturer out of the continent, and James, you go on your own and you negotiate, they are then able to take us for granted, because they might see us as being desperate because we are not singing in unison. And they come and they dump their products here. And you spoke about maintenance, James, and then we find ourselves using their products, but when something fails, no one is there to support us. There's no after-sales support, and we are stuck with the product, right? So how do we then prevent that from happening? How do we then ensure that we protect ourselves from being exploited in that manner? And I think through collaboration and the policy reforms, we stand a better chance of doing that. Let me stop here and really thank and appreciate all of you for the opportunity, and invite you to please link up with FAO. We are a federation for African engineering organizations. We look forward to partnering with everybody and protecting the space within which we all exist and practice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Buthelezi. I think you've actually done most of my work of summarizing what has been happening today. So I'm eternally grateful. So from my side, I'm not sure if there are any quick questions. I'll kindly ask maybe that we finish off in the next 5 minutes. If there are any quick questions, I'm thinking maybe the panel will have a quick chat at the end of everything. But to the participants, is there anyone who's got a question? I'm seeing on the chat, there is a question there on, you spoke well about fundamental issues in digital construction. Are there examples of how government initiatives and private sector partnerships are helping to bridge this gap? Maybe James, you can jump into that one. I think you gave a good example of Schiphol.
Yeah, I don't know of good examples in Africa, to be honest. But that's the bad news. But the good news is that the opportunities are immense, and it is not very difficult to convince people about the utility of this. So I'll give a simple example. I'm actually, while living in Europe, I've been trying to construct a building in Nigeria. And one of the problems I've had is that I had somebody for years. I just didn't know what was happening until I found somebody who now regularly sends me, through WhatsApp, video screens of what's happening. That could have been prevented by if we had some kind of, it is now possible without too much, actually using free tools to actually have a situation which I don't need to ask him. I could have access to the construction that is being done anywhere I am in the world for not a very big cost. So the answer to the question is, I don't know very good examples, but that means there's a lot of opportunity if you are interested in this area. to put in examples and to convince people very easily about the business case of doing this.
Thank you so much for that response. Anyone else wants to dive into that question?
Maybe I can. We've got Ethiopia. Thank you so much. We've got Ethiopia and the current huge bridge, a dam that has been built, and I think our colleague from Ethiopia can talk to that. That is a huge milestone for Africa as having constructed a project of that magnitude. And for me, one thing that it shows me is that when the leadership are committed and recognize that the engineering professional skills that they have in the country, and therefore put an engineering professional to lead a particular department. So number one, when ministers, when our presidents, when our politicians start appreciating that they do need to have competent ministers in an area of their expertise, it then starts being a step in the right direction. But then it also comes to when we talk about technology discipline, because without the discipline of ensuring that data is uploaded, and we then start, using paperwork to even have change control for a project, that is not discipline. We need to start having leadership that understand the discipline it takes to use technology, because they are then able to have assurance. They are then able to trust the data that they're given. There's no human intervention. There's no human error. So it's also understanding that when you then start introducing technology, you're not doing it just to be fast followers, but it also takes discipline and consistency, and then appreciating the young professionals who are coming. Yes, we may think that they are young and they are going to destabilize the system, but they are the people who know and appreciate this technology better than us. So start embracing and having a lot more inclusive leadership in the spaces that we have. But I do certainly think Ethiopia is the most recent one. We also have seen a lot in South Africa from a point of load shedding, where we had substations or power stations that were incomplete, and we had a leader that is committed, and we've seen how they were supported. And I can tell you today, we've not had load shedding in South Africa, a matter that 5 years ago we did not think would be resolved. So transformation is there, but the leadership is also of paramount importance. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Engineer. I think from a time perspective, we have run a bit overboard. We're given until past. So we are 4 minutes after. Apologies,
Will you let me give a quick congratulations to Engineer Buthelezi, because I worked in South Africa for ESCOM for 3 years. So I'm always keeping abreast of the electricity progress. So congratulations to the President, His Excellency, yourself, for the incredible progress that has been made in that area in a very short time.
Yes, congratulations. We'll be coming to learn from you. I think from my side, I just want to jump into some closing remarks. Appreciation to all the panelists, and also an apology to the rest of the panel, the rest of the webinar participants, given that we're a bit late. But James, Refilwe, Sophonias, Mark, if you're still on the call, thank you so much. And Tunde as well. It's been fantastic. I think we must repeat this sometime later on. But to the audience, you've also been fantastic. Great questions. I think what is important is there's a linking point there. I think fire is a linking point for all of us. So maybe we can start off with that linking point. But from Construct Africa's side, there's definitely maybe some guidance that they need to do now that they facilitated today on saying how does Construct Africa take the conversation forward. And of course, there are more conversations that are going to take place, but I'm also thinking that with the high interest in the conversation around leveraging technology, maybe what we need to do, we need to find a mechanism of having a cycle, maybe once a semester or once a quarter, so that the conversation continues, and maybe we have some initiatives that we start talking about. I see some people asking for contacts, which is fantastic, which means that it won't end with the webinar. And for me, I think it would be a waste that we spend this 1.5 hours. It's a talk shop. as engineers, we are not politicians, you know, we are really practical people. So there's an urge, I think, that has been created here to say, how are we moving forward? So from my side, we can get the lineup of the next set of events over to the projecting team just to show us our next upcoming webinars. So on the 29th of January, that is when we're having sustainable design of infrastructure for African countries. So sustainability topic is coming up. And then we've got on the 28th of May, road, bridge, and highway infrastructure in Africa. And then 24, as Engineer Buthelezi has spoken about disputes, we're having resolving contractual disputes. So some of the maybe participants who are assisting FIO in that regard maybe can also participate here. 26th March, we have addressing the housing crisis in Africa. 30 July, we're looking at overcoming logistics challenges. And 26 November, superiority of payments and cash flow management. So there will be a bit of financial aspects there to close the year. So these are the webinars that are coming up. But from my side, thank you so much to our participants, and we're looking forward to seeing you in our next rounds of webinars, and not just conversing, but also translating these conversations into practical solutions for the continent. And thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Thank you.